I'm going to show you how to create a good data table using the Excel software. We will start by opening Excel. It's a green icon located on your desktop. Double left click to open. The program will automatically open to a new blank spreadsheet. Notice that the page is arranged in a grid pattern of rows and columns. The columns have letters and the rows have numbers. The position that is active and able to be edited is highlighted in orange, in this case A1. You can change where you want to add or edit information by moving your cursor and left-clicking on that position, in this case E3. So the first thing that we have to do when making a good data table is put a title on it. The title should go right at the top of the data table and include your independent and your dependent variable. Since my experiment is about surfboard length and the time a surfer can stay up, I'm going to type, how does the length of the surfboard affect the time a surfer stays up? Since we all know I'm a terrible typer, I actually already did this, so I'm just going to hit redo, and it'll show up there, all typed neatly. And I'm just going to push enter. This shows my independent variable, which is the length of the surfboard, and my dependent variable, the time the surfer stays up. That's what I want in my title. Once I have my column width adjusted, I want to go to the B2 location and type in my dependent variable. In my case, time the surfer stays up. And include the units in seconds. I'm going to run 3 trials of my experiment, so I want to make sure that I record times for 3 trials. In the B3 location, I'm going to put trial 1. In the C3 location, trial 2. And then the D3, trial 3. Then I'm going to put an average for all my data. The next thing I'm going to do is put in the lengths of surfboards that I'm going to use in my experiment. In my case, I'm using a little one, 36 inches, 48 inches, 60 inches, 72 inches, and 90 inches. Even though we haven't run our experiment yet, we can get this data table ready to use by making it a little neater. One thing I like to do is center the text. To do that, I'm going to highlight the text that I want to center and go up to this little arrow and click on it. I'm going to do the same thing here as well. That makes our data table a little bit neater. Another thing that we can do to make our data table easier to read is to put grid marks around the area that we're going to use, that we're going to put our data in. To do that, we're going to highlight the region from B3 to E8. Then we're going to go up to here to this thing that looks like graph paper. And we're going to put all borders in. You'll see it draws boxes around that information. We also want to put boxes around our independent variable. So I'm going to highlight that area and do exactly the same thing there. Now, I like to put a big box border around the independent and dependent variables. Make sure that the dependent variable, that this goes all the way across every trial and the average, because those are all times in seconds. Go up to this borders section and choose thick box border. That shows your dependent variable. Now, I like to put a big box border around the independent and dependent variables. Make sure that the dependent variable, that this goes all the way across every trial and the average, because those are all times in seconds. Go up to this borders section and choose thick box border. That shows your dependent variable. Once the black box is around the dependent variable, we also want to put it around the independent variable. So we're going to click on that region and highlight it and do thick box border as well. Now you'll see it's very easy to see what the independent variable and the dependent variable are for our experiment. At this point, our data table is ready to use, but it's not really ready to print out on a display board. We need to look and see what it would look like printed. So I'd like you to go to the File section and Print. When we do that, it's going to show up what it will look like when it's being printed. And you'll see ours is pretty small. Because our data table is really small, we're going to make some cosmetic changes to it. Nothing is going to change as far as what we actually have in our data table, but we're going to make it look a little better. The first thing we want to do is change the paper orientation. If you scroll down in the print bar, you'll see something that says Portrait Orientation. We would like to change that to Landscape Orientation. Once you've changed it to landscape orientation, I'd like you to go back to the Home section. You'll notice there are little dotted lines that appear on your spreadsheet now. This shows where the edge of the paper page will be if it were to be printed. Because our data table doesn't really fit well on this page, we really want it to fill the whole page. So we're going to have to reformat it. We're going to start with the length of the columns. Remember, I changed the length of the column by dragging them before. This time I'm going to highlight the whole section. I'm going to go to Format, Column Width. A good column width for this type of thing would be about 18, I think. We're going to have to use a little bit of guess and check, though. Now, you can see when I did this, my columns got larger. You can see that our columns have gotten wider, but they still haven't come up to the edge of the paper. That's really where we want them. So I'm going to try formatting again. Column width. And instead of 18, I'm going to put 22 in. and click OK. Now you can see that they fit right to the edge of the paper. There's a problem though. When we changed the column width, it actually made column A1 a little smaller, and it's cut off some of the print. We're going to make that just a little bit bigger so that all of our print appears. Now you can see now that we've got our column width appropriately set, we need to make the row height larger as well. To do that, we're going to highlight on the rows, go to the Format section, and choose Row Height. We want it to be a relatively large number. I'm going to say 50. But again, it'll have to be a guess and check. And click OK. You can see that it still doesn't quite fit within the area that we want it to. You can see from this that the rows still don't fill the page the way we want them to. So I'm going to hit Format again while it's still highlighted and change it from 50 to 52. That's much closer to filling the page. At this point, I want to check and see what it looks like if I were to print it. So I'm going to go to the File, Print section and take a look at it. Well, that looks pretty good. I don't think I want to mess with it too much more, except I notice that the print size is very small. To change the type size, we go back home. We're going to actually highlight the whole data table. Go up here to where the text is, and we're going to change the font size. That looks pretty good. You'll notice at this point it's a little hard to see the whole spreadsheet that you want to use at one time. If you go down to the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see this 100% sign. We need to make that a little bit smaller by clicking on the negative. That way we can see our whole data table at once. You may have noticed that when I increase the font size, my independent variable no longer fits within the column that I have it in. I'm going to fix that right now. Just by typing in. Now it says board length in inches, and it fits. At this point, our data table looks pretty good. Let's take a look at it from the print view. Go to File, Print, and you can see that this is a data table that's ready to go on the board. It looks fantastic. That's what your data table should look like.